everybody right now. I'm really excited to be joined on the show by, in my opinion, one of the greatest heavyweight MMA guys like ever, and a great representative of professional wrestling, Josh Barnett. Josh, how are you, man?
It's a good day. Ran training earlier, came from that, grabbed some coffee, and here to talk wrestling.
Yeah. Hey, so you've been a pro wrestling fan all your life?
A fan all my life, yes. Worker since 2002.
Let's talk about Bloodsport, because there's other shit I want to talk about too. But let's get right into it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm really happy to see a market for that type of pro wrestling here in the States. It's really cool to see it because it hadn't been here always.
No, and in fact, that type of pro wrestling really has not been able to grab a foothold here in the States, especially with WCW and WWF back in the day. But this is the right environment for it. And I actually talked about this many years ago about being something I think that could have some success in the U.S. with the right people and the right booking. And when I was approached to be a part of this whole project, and they agreed to let me be the guy to run the captain of the ships, I just said, man, I just thought, okay, you're going to see something here. I'm going to produce something, and I know on paper it sounds like whatever, and anybody else could do it, but telling you nobody else can do it. I've got the pedigree. I know that the talent, even personally. You watch. I'll make this a thing, you know.
Yeah.
And before you had it, it was Riddle's Bloodsport, right? There was, I think, maybe one or two Riddle Bloodsports before it became Josh Barnett.
Just the one. There was just the one show, and it just, to me, I was glad to see it, and it was good for a lot of the athletes there, and it helped them out quite a bit. But it was just not. It was not my vision. So that's why I started. When I refer to the first Bloodsport, I refer to my first one, not the prior one, because I see that as a different product.
What's the difference?
The way the matches are structured, the way they were agented, I would just say in the quality of being able to put together shoot style matches, period. I felt like everybody obviously gave it their best in the first Matt Riddle's Bloodsport, but nobody knew what they were doing for the most part, and it was not their fault by any means. Not to mention, I felt like the booking itself was not really taking into consideration very important things towards shoot style matches. And when you see stuff like that, it seems like the normal thing would be to go on the internet and slag everyone and disrespect them and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, really, how does that make anything any better? And the reality is most people aren't going to have that skill set. Most wrestlers in wrestling aren't even taught to actually wrestle anymore. So expecting them to be able to hit a double, drop into a toe hold, and then the other person's going to counter that, swing into a knee bar, or just counter it, get to a headlock, look for a pin. The guy kicks out, run a half. They're not going to do any of that because they've never been trained to do that. And so I can't be mad at that person for that which they lack necessarily. I mean, I could say that there's a lot of opportunities that they could take to go and alleviate that lack of skill. But the reality is that the cultural paradigm of professional wrestling, from the working to the training they just abandoned actually wrestling. Okay, it's just the way it is. So my job is not to yell at people for that which they didn't have or that which they've never created. I mean, it was just the first show, right? They were working with a conceptual idea, and then they were just going to put it together based on what they already knew how to do, which of course means you're gonna end up treating this thing that is not quite the same as you've been doing with these other projects. It's just not gonna. It won't look the way you think it's going to. It's not going to come out exactly correct.
And
it's fun.
One of the things from the first show that you did keep, though, is there was the no ropes.
Right.
Talk about the decision. Is that traditional, or is it something new that you're bringing to it? Like it was pursued. Like, why the no ropes?
The simplest answer is that was part of the gimmick, so it stuck. I mean, if we're honestly, having ropes makes it easier. Having ropes and rope escapes and that kind of thing makes it so much easier to craft matches and to create stories and so on and so forth. It's actually, when people look at things as a restrictions give you things to play with in the realm of professional wrestling. And by removing that element, you have to learn how to work around it and work around. It's not the lack of restriction, but what you used to have that you could have used. It was another tool in the toolbox. Well, now it's not there, so you got to work around it. But I feel like we've done a really good job of doing so, and we've got incredible talent with great minds, and even better, great ears. They listen well. They take instruction. They're there to bring out their best, not from themselves, not just themselves, but out of their opponents and out of the matches themselves. It's great.
I'm curious, Josh, the fan base for that, like the people that come to these shows. Do you find they're educated and they know what they're watching? Like, is it a mixed bag? Like, how does it seem so far?
It's a good question. I'd say it's gonna be a mixed bag for the most part, but I think that those that have become fans of it, that continue to carry with it, they become more educated as they go, and they learn more as they're a part of the shows. And then there's just some people that are there that just like, man, these are great. They're just kicking the hell out of each other, and I absolutely love it. And regardless of the quote unquote style that we're working, we're still out there giving it our all. This is John Moxley and Chris Dickinson and Simon Gotch and Davey Boy Smith Jr. I mean, and go on and on and on. So we are still a group with incredible wrestlers that can go out there and put on a match with anyone. And we use Bloodsport to put forth the most stripped down, raw, intense kind of wrestling that we can think of.
Can you talk a little bit about how, like, you obviously have such a vision for Bloodsport and a style that you're trying to sell, but at the same time, like, currently Bloodsport's, maybe forever, I don't know, but like still part of the GCW universe, which also includes, deathmatch wrestling. It also includes these, fabulous big gay brunches and these kind of throwback, Joey Janela spring break type shows. Being in the unique position to be able to have that vision, but also kind of balancing the other fan bases in GCW and how a Moxley, for example, can do a Bloodsport match and then walk across the street and he's rolling around in glass with Nick Gage, the next night. It's very unique, the position you're in.
Yeah, well, and each show is its own flavor. And so we don't really have to worry about cross-pollination so much. I mean, everyone's doing their own thing, and yet there are going to be those that are capable and wanting to work Bloodsport and then another show and another show. And there's plenty of places for people to find an opportunity to get in the ring if they've got the competence. So in that sense, I mean, you never know who you might draw into your product. But I'd have to say that we, as a GCW imprint, have to have people coming from those other types of shows coming and watching. And hey, man, there's, I'm sure, plenty of people that are big gay brunch that love the ever living crap out of shoot wrestling, and people that are deathmatch aficionados that absolutely love watching MMA or other things of that nature. I mean, it's fighting's universal. That's why wrestling works in the first place.